All right, so welcome. And what we're going to do in this session is we're going to dive into a powerful healing framework. And I want to give you just a couple of different ways to think about this because essentially what we're going to be doing here is healing trauma, right? But another way you could think about it is just processing your emotions. Another way that you could think about it is actually shifting your consciousness. So your emotional state is going to dictate your perspective that you're of the experience that you're having. So for example, if you're angry, if you're anxious, if you're afraid, if you're worried, if you're doubtful, if you're feeling stressed, that's essentially a specific level of consciousness that you are occupying. And because you're in that state of consciousness, everything that you observe in your world is filtered through that state of consciousness. So when we're doing healing work or when we're doing this inner work, what we're clearing out our emotional baggage, so to say. We're learning how to resolve our triggers better. But also what we're doing is we're actually changing our whole state of consciousness. We're moving from a lower, less desirable state of consciousness, that frustrated feeling when everything feels really hard and everything feels like a push, or everything feels like it's against you, or life just is just so hard, or things never work. That's a specific state of consciousness that you're occupying, right? When you're feeling anxious, you're feeling not good enough, you're feeling stressed out, you wake up every day wondering, why is it like this? Why me, right? Or you're thinking that other people in the world are like a threat to you. So it's like maybe your partner, your intimate partner, maybe your friends, maybe your parents, they're always out to get you. They're always trying to fuck you over, right? That's a specific state of consciousness that you're occupying. And usually if you're occupying that state of consciousness, it's because you have a lot of like built up emotional stress, right? And so the way that you can know if you have this and if this training is going to be helpful for you is that you feel emotionally charged in your body. So people call it triggered, right? Like if you're easily triggered into undesirable states of being, so you're easily triggered into frustration, you're easily triggered into anger, you're easily triggered into fear or anxiety or panic, right? You're easily kind of triggered into these states where you feel very emotionally charged in your body. If that's what you're experiencing, on a day-to-day basis, this is going to be very powerful for you because what we want to do is we want to learn how to unload that emotional stress. We want to learn how to resolve and manage our emotional stress and clear it out. We want to clear our internal body out, our inner world. We want to clear it out so it's nice and clear, nice and balanced, right? We want to start to move into a state of alignment, right? Or flow. So just before we started this, I was telling everyone who was on here live about the analogy that I use with the garden hose. And I'm just going to recover it one more time because it's just a great way to visualize what I'm talking about here, the process, right? If you're feeling like you're being triggered a lot, right? You're always experiencing things that you don't want to experience in your body, you're feeling very stressed, right? Everything that you're trying to achieve in your life feels hard. You feel like there's a lot of threat and everyone might be out to get you or fuck you over, right? You're feeling a lot of pressure in your body. It's like you've got a garden hose and you've kinked it, right? So a healthy, way to use a garden hose is to obviously don't kink it and you just let the water flow out, right? And the water just flows. We want your emotional body to be like that as well. It just flows, right? So you can feel emotions, but they come and they go really easily, right? So you're not getting too attached in it. You're not getting too caught up in it. You're not getting too stuck in it. But instead, it just comes and then it just goes, right? Like a garden hose that's working properly, just, right? Water just comes out. We want your emotions to flow like that as well. Now, what happens when you resist your emotions? So let's say you're resisting what you're feeling. You start to feel frustrated. You start to feel anxious, because something's happened, right? Something didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. Maybe it was with your partner, maybe it was with something at work. Maybe it's with your job. Maybe it's with money. Maybe it's with your parents, your friends. Something didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. And because of that, you start to feel not good. Like you feel, oh, I'm not good anymore. Like, so I feel like not good. I feel bad. I feel frustrated. I feel anxious. I feel worried. right? So what you're doing is you're resisting what's happening. You're resisting the experience that you're having. You're trying to like change it or resist it or stop it. You wanted it to go a different way. It didn't go the way that you wanted, and now you feel bad, right? And so you resist it. I don't want it to be like this. What you're essentially doing is you're kinking the garden hose, right? And when you kink a garden hose, it builds up pressure, right? It builds up like a lot of pressure. I'm sure you guys have done that before at some point in your life. You've kinked a garden hose and the water's stopped going through and it's just built up pressure. Now, when you resist your emotions, or when you try and suppress your emotions, or you try to change it, or you try to get out of it, or you're going, I don't want this, what I'm feeling, right? You're kinking it. You're resisting. You're literally going, I don't want this thing, what I'm experiencing, so let's just try and stop it. And that just builds up pressure. And that's obviously, you know what it looks like in a garden hose. What it looks like in a human being is just emotional stress, right? Just this buildup of energy inside yourself, which ends up like actually reducing your capacity to do anything else constructively or productively. When you have a buildup of emotional stress in your body, it reduces your capacity to do anything else productively. So I'm sure you guys will resonate with this, right? At some point in your life, you've felt this, like there's a lot of emotional stress, and because of that, you're not thinking clearly, and you start to not act clearly either. So you've got this big emotional charge in your body, and because of that, you're not being as productive as you usually are. You're not feeling calm. You're not feeling clear. You're feeling just like rattled, and you can't think properly, and you can't do things properly. Who's experienced that? I have. I've experienced that. It sucks, right? And you're just rattled. Internally, you're just kind of like a mess and you can't think properly, right? And you know, I say sometimes on social media, it's like your mind is fucked, right? So we need to unfuck our mind. And one of the ways that we do this, right? There's a few different ways, but one of the ways is just unloading the emotional stress. So we need to learn how to do that. So I'm going to walk you guys through today a 6-step framework, and I want to make this really clear, really powerful for you. But I wanted to give you this context first, just so that you understand like what we're trying to do here. We're trying to unkink our hose. We're trying to allow our emotions to flow freely, right? So doing this work sometimes can be emotional, right? Might bring up some suppressed emotions. You might want to cry. Lots of people cry when they do this work, right? It's not uncommon for like fully grown men to break down in tears when I'm going through this work with them, right? So we want to actually allow space for that. This training right now is some space for that, right? And I want you to just also just develop this mindset or this belief system that every time you feel triggered, it's an opportunity for you to release emotional stress. Every single time, you might even just write that down. Every single time I get triggered is a time for me to release emotional stress. So being triggered isn't a bad thing, right? Lots of people say, "Oh, they get triggered," and then they just think, "Oh, this is bad. I'm not doing good right now." Because they're in resistance to what they're experiencing. They're in resistance to the trigger. I don't want to be triggered, right? I don't want to experience this emotion. And this is across the board, whatever it is, anger, frustration, anxiety. It's like, I don't want to be experiencing this. And so what happens is what you resist persists. What you resist persists. So you might want to write that one down as well. What you resist persists. Every trigger is an opportunity for you to unload your emotional stress. But if you resist the trigger, or you try to change it, or you try to stop it, or you try to control it, or you try to do something to get out of what you're experiencing, you're resisting, it will persist. It will stay there. It will continue, right? Because you're not learning the lesson. The lesson is just to feel what you need to feel. Because when you feel what you need to feel, right, that is literally like the garden hose being unkicked, all the pressure, allowing it to flow through. So I'm going to start to go towards this healing framework, right? One of the most powerful things about this is we're going to dive directly into one of your specific patterns that you're experiencing. So for most people, you're going to have some kind of pattern that just keeps repeating. All right. Just before this, I was kicking the soccer ball out the front yard with my daughter, and I was thinking, I checked my emails this morning, and there was a couple of emails that were a little bit triggering for me, right? But you know, if you ever experienced that, like I'm going to Dubai in a few weeks, and I got an email with the about the accommodation, and it was more than I thought it was going to be, right? And it gave me like a little bit of a trigger, but it wasn't. It was like nowhere near as bad as it used to be. I used to get really, really triggered about money, right? Like I used to, or like I had to do a lot of work around money, right? I used to get really triggered, really charged up around money. Anyway, so this Dubai trip, the accommodation is going to be more than I thought it was going to be. And it brought up like a little bit of that same trigger. But then I just kept playing soccer with my daughter, and I was then reflecting. I was like, oh, that was like, it's like not a big deal. Back in the day, I would have gotten to probably like a spin about that, and it could have lasted for hours, right? Even the whole day, right? But now it doesn't matter. Like I was like, oh, okay, I'll just have to pay a little bit more than I thought I was going to pay. No worries. Let's just go kick the soccer ball, right? So why I'm sharing this is because that was a pattern of mine that I wanted to share with you guys, just to show you this stuff really works. I've done so much of this stuff before. Now that money is just not a trigger for me anymore, right? Like it's just not. It is a little bit, but it's not like it doesn't charge me up into like a 8 out of 10 triggered. It was like a 2 out of 10. It was like I felt a slight like resistance, but then I just was able to let it go. So it was a 2 out of 10. It wasn't really a thing that bothered me much at all. Whereas in the past, it was like an 8 out of 10. Like something like that would spin me out, right? So this stuff really works, and it can be very specific, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to uncover one of your recurring patterns that you're experiencing, and we're going to actually go into like why it's there. And usually it's coming from some deeper childhood wound or some like suppressed emotions that you got from earlier in your life. So we'll get into it now, right? No more wasting time. I'm going to whip up my whiteboard, and I want you guys to make sure that you have a journal, right? Have a journal, because I'm going to walk you through a process, right? So this is, and some of you might be familiar with this already. If you're already in Mind Launch, like I know I've got a few clients on this call right now. If you're already in Mind Launch, you might have already done this, but it's good work just to do over and over again. Like I always revisit this. This is something that I consider like one of my most powerful tools in my personal tool belt that I personally use for my self-development continuously, right? Like I use this over and over again because it's such a great tool it's like an embodiment practice almost, to feel into your body, to understand yourself more deeply. And when you do this work, you'll overcome your patterns. You'll shift those recurring patterns, right? And you'll start to not get triggered by them. And I really, really believe that. So first step, right? Step one is just to identify the recurring pattern. So like I was just sharing that story about, for me, there used to be a recurring pattern around like frustration around money, right? Or being triggered around money. So what is the recurring pattern you're experiencing? So you can write this down and answer it in your journal, right? Step one, identify the recurring pattern. What is the recurring pattern that you're experiencing? Just write it down. Frustration around money, right? Triggered around money, or it could be relationships. Triggered around relationships. My partner's not doing what I want them to do, and that's making me feel pissed off, right? It could be anything. Like, what is that thing that you're experiencing over and over again that you just know you don't want to be experiencing it? So just write that down in your journal. We're going to move through this reasonably quickly, right? If you have any questions, pop them below in the comments box below or the chat box below, and I will answer them at the end of the call. Step one, identify the recurring pattern. What is the recurring pattern you're experiencing? Step two, find the external attachment. So usually there's some kind of an external attachment, right? You feel like you need something. When I have this thing, I will finally feel this other thing. So I'll just go with the money example because I'm already on that, right? I used to, when I was growing my business and when I was frustrated around money, I wanted to get to a 6-figure business, right? I wanted to be earning over 100 grand a year in my business. and I had an external attachment so there was this recurring pattern I was experiencing around frustration around money. And the external attachment was when I have, this $100,000 a year business, when I have this six-figure business, or when I'm earning like $10,000 a month, I'll finally feel good enough, right? So I had this external attachment of like, I need to be earning this much money. And until I earn that much money, I can't feel good enough, right? So what is it for you? Right? What is that thing that you feel like you need? Like another one that I worked through was like when I have a perfect wife, I'll finally feel satisfied, right? So the point here, I'm being very open and transparent with you guys here. This thing is whatever this is right now that we're looking at, when I will finally feel, this is a limiting belief. This is not true. This is a limiting belief that you have, right? You think when I have this thing, then I will finally feel this way. So you're attaching your internal state of feeling towards some external thing. And usually it's something stupid, right? Like for me, when I have $10,000, I'll finally feel good enough. When I have a perfect wife, I'll finally feel satisfied. Like, it's silly. So you just have to understand that you currently are holding on to some kind of a thought pattern that is not serving you and not helping you feel good. So we're just identifying what is that. So step one is to find what is the recurring pattern that you're experiencing. So something, something, something. And then, frustration, anger, anxiety, right? Going into public places could be another one. Things happening at work, feeling triggered, something like that. Find the external attachment. When I have this thing, I'll finally feel this way. When I have success in my career, or when I have a great relationship, or when I have more money, I'll finally feel maybe it's good enough. I'll finally feel worthy. I'll finally feel happy. I'll finally feel at peace. I'll finally feel loved. What is it for you? Write that down. Now, just a quick little side quest here. When we're doing this work, one of the things that I want you to also do is connect to your intuition. So try not to overthink these questions. Instead, take a deep breath into your body and allow the answer to come to you through your feeling body, through your intuition. Don't overthink it. Trust your intuition. Go with the first kind of thought that pops up. All right? Cool. Because you'll have the answer. You'll know what it is. You just might need to slow down a second to really tune in. So step 3 is then to unpack the unconscious program. So we are all running off programs, right? We are all running off a program, and that program is essentially like things that we've learned through our life, right? So that's your belief systems, your habits, your emotions, right? But it's all of these things create programs within us, right? And then we run off that program. We're like a computer, right? That runs off a specific program, a specific like language set, right? And you will have one that's specific to you. And we're going to dive into that, right? But there's usually these two types of archetypes that I see a lot, the victim and the people pleaser. So what we want to do is we want to look at this pattern, the recurring pattern that you're experiencing. We're going to look at the external attachment. When I have this thing, I'll finally feel this way. And then we're going to unpack the unconscious program. So if you look at that pattern, specifically the one that you're experiencing, would you say it's more of a victim pattern or more of a people pleaser pattern? And what we're doing here as well is we're trying to tune into the energy. Like, does it feel more like a victim or does it feel more like a people pleaser? So once you've got that, write that down. Is it a victim? Is it a people pleaser? Oftentimes people will tell me, oh, it feels like both. It feels like I could be both, right? Just pick one. Just pick the one that feels a little bit bigger, right? So it might feel like both. You probably feel like you've got a bit of both in your life. However, I want you to just really tune in on this pattern, this process that we're going through. And if you read back over your answers for the first 2 steps, does that feel more like a victim energy or a people pleaser energy? And just choose the one that feels a little bit bigger. Now, step 3 is dig deeper. When did you feel a similar way earlier in your life? Okay. So you can write that question down as well. Step 3.5, dig deeper. When did you feel a similar way earlier in your life? Write that question down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pause this screen share for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a short little meditation. So I'm going to ask you to put down your pen, put down your paper, all right, whatever you're doing, just put everything down and just lean back in your chair. Or if you're like me with your new standing desk, you can just stand up and just close down your eyes. And the first thing I want you to do is just to really connect with your body. So you might want to shake a little bit, you might want to move, you might want to straighten up your spine, take a deep breath, and release. Exhale, relax the body. And take a couple more breaths just to land in your body in this present moment, right here and right now. Just become present. Connect with your breath and connect with your body. And I want you just to imagine again that first step. What is this recurring pattern that you're experiencing? Just imagine that in your mind. What is the recurring pattern that you're experiencing? And then we're going to move through to step 2. What's the external attachment? When I have this thing, I'll finally feel this way. What was that for you? When I have ... I will finally feel ... And then we're going to move into step 3. Is that coming from a victim energy or a people-pleasing energy? And just feel into that a little bit. Take a deep breath. And relax. And then step 3.5. When did you feel a similar way earlier in your life? So just open your awareness, open your internal awareness, and just ask yourself, when did I feel a similar way earlier in my life? And just keep your awareness open. Become aware of whatever memories are starting to pop up. And if there's nothing popping up, that's fine as well. Just keep your awareness open and trust that something will come to you. When did you feel a similar way earlier in your life? And how did that make you feel? So once you've landed on a memory, you've landed on a feeling, I want you to take another deep breath and let it go. And just allow yourself some space here in this open awareness to feel whatever it is that you need to feel in this moment. Whatever emotions you're coming up from this past memory, whatever emotions are coming up from this unconscious program, whatever emotions are coming up from your attachments or your pattern, just allow it to come up and allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. Try not to make any other stories about it. Try not to add any extra thoughts. Just feel into your body. When did you feel a similar way earlier in your life? You can just imagine that in your mind. Imagine that memory. Start to feel those feelings. And just trust that you're safe and you can feel those feelings. It's okay. And when you do feel those feelings, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be releasing emotional stress, processing your emotions. Take another deep breath in and release. And now I want you to imagine a future version of yourself. So start to think into the future. If the old version of you was that people pleaser or that victim who felt maybe not good enough or unloved or not worthy or not safe or whatever it was, not accepted, not understood, whatever it was, if that was the old version of you, as you look toward the future, who would you like to become? What lessons can you take from that experience into your future? Who would you like to become moving forward? And just take a few moments to feel into that. Start to get a nice clear image of the person who you would like to become. That healed version of yourself, that more whole and integral version of yourself. Take a deep breath and let it all go. Take a couple more breaths in your own time and let it all go. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Awesome work, everyone. Just drop into the chat box or the comment box how that experience was for you. You don't need to share anything if you don't want to, but if you feel called to share in the chat box or the comment box below. How did that make you feel? What did you experience? What insights or takeaways did you have from that? Like I said, you don't need to share if you don't want to, but if you feel called to, you can just drop it into the chat box. Cool. All right. Now, next step 4, is to create a new identity. So who do you want to be moving forward? The last part of that meditation, right? We're looking at a future version of ourselves. Who do you want to be moving forward? So this is step 4. Write this down. Create a new identity. If the old version of you is the people pleaser or the victim or the person who felt unloved or unworthy or whatever else it was, right? Who's the new version of you? Who do you want to be moving forward? What's the new identity? Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Kylie says like the dial is turned down, so the charge is turned down a little bit. Awesome. And then Brion, that was really powerful. Yeah, I said it's a powerful trauma healing framework because I really believe it is quite powerful. So yeah, this is really powerful work, right? You can really move some emotions, right? And you can really learn about yourself and you can really learn about feeling what you need to feel, right? So I'm glad that you had that experience, right? We're going to get into what to do next. But yeah, just know that this is a great framework that you can continue to use over and over again. I'll give you some more guidance on that, but let's just keep going because we've only got a couple more steps left. Step 4 is to create the new identity. So who do you want to be moving forward? So write that down, spend a little bit of time with that. Even if we're just going through this now, just write a few words. Maybe you can elaborate on it further down the track. Maybe it's just more confident. Maybe it's just more, responsible. Maybe it's more loving. Maybe it's more calm, at peace. Maybe you want to create a whole new life for yourself. Maybe you want to be more healthier in your relationships, whatever it is, right? Write that new identity down, just a few words that kind of encapsulate the new identity that you want to move towards. And then step 5 is to connect to your heart. So step 5, what we're going to do is we're just going to take our hand on our heart and then our other hand on our belly. And we're going to close down our eyes once more. We're just going to take a nice deep breath into our heart and let it go. And another one, nice deep breath into your heart. And this time, as you breathe in, you say to yourself, when I connect to my heart, I finally feel. And then tune into your body. How do you feel when you connect to your heart? When I connect to my heart, I finally feel. And what's that first word that comes to your mind? Drop it in the chat box below. And also write it down. Step 5, connect to your heart. When I connect with my heart, I finally feel. Yep. Kylie says at peace. Right. Awesome. So with that, right, what we're realizing, at the start of this, I said this step two is silly, right? Obviously, you don't need like certain amounts of money or a certain kind of relationship to feel a certain kind of way. You might think that you do right now, but what I'm saying is when you take the time to connect with your heart, you can start to feel whatever you want to feel. So like when I connect to my heart, I feel good enough, I feel loved, I feel whole, right? I feel at peace, I feel calm. All of those feelings that I wanted to feel from external things, I can already feel them within myself when I become present, right? So all we need to do is connect with our heart and develop this embodiment practice and this practice of feeling and this practice of mindfulness and meditation or breath work or whatever it is that you want to do, this framework, right? Things that bring you out of your head and into your heart, right? One of the hardest, journeys you'll ever go on is just the journey from your head to your heart. But this is why we're here. This is what I want to encourage for you guys, taking that journey from your head to your heart. So I'd love to hear some more of the words. When you connect with your heart, when you take a second to when you connect with your heart, what do you feel? Type it into the chat box. I'd love to hear some more words. Awesome. Loved. Beautiful. Cool. And then step 6, which is the final step, is to integrate, right? So what can you do moving forward to integrate this new identity, right? So here we are, right? Step 6 is to integrate, because this is a great framework, right? 6 steps, really helpful. And maybe today you've jumped on here with me and you've had a really positive experience or a really powerful experience, really moving experience. Awesome. Good job, right? This is just the start of the work, right? Now you have to integrate this into your life moving forward, right? That means daily habits, right? Consistency, momentum, putting in the work, continuing to develop yourself to grow and to actually embody, these lessons and these learnings. So that's integration. So the next question is, what can you do moving forward to integrate this new identity? And that's it. That's the 6-step framework, right? That's the powerful trauma healing framework. And I'm going to give you some more guidance on what you can do to integrate, right? There's a few things. Like I said, you can start with embodiment practices, meditation, mindfulness, breath work, using this framework, right? It's going to be really helpful for you. What I've noticed is the most powerful thing for people who are going through self-development and change is having a few extra support systems in place. One is community, right? So people around you who are working on the same thing, a community of like-minded people who are working on the same goal that you can feel supported by, that you can feel connected by, that you can ask questions, share, right? You can have this interconnected experience, right? Community, very important. Next is a process, right? So the process that I've just walked you through here is really, really helpful. But in the coaching program, right, in the Mind Launch coaching program, the Anxiety to Alignment coaching program, there is a very specific 6-week process that will actually expand on everything that we've just talked about here. What we've just talked about is kind of covered in week 3. Right, this is like a little snapshot of what's covered in week 3. And in week 3 is the healing week, right? That's where we dive into this healing work. But there's a 6-week process that walks you through everything that you would need to know. So you've got the support that you need, right? And then finally, so we've got community, we've got the process, a teacher, a guide, a mentor, a coach, someone that acts as that archetype to actually help you or guide you along the journey is very, very powerful. I've used many teachers in my own life, many coaches, many mentors, and that's helped me achieve things that I want to achieve, right? I learned this framework that I'm teaching you right now off someone who taught it to me, right? This is why the archetype of the teacher or the coach or the mentor or the guide is so important, because it's like passing down information through the lineage, through the timeline, right? So I learned from my teacher. Now I teach you guys. Who knows? Maybe one day you guys will be teaching other people or helping other people with stuff like this. But a teacher is very important. A community is very important, and specific processes very important, right? And that's what you get when you come into the Anxiety to Alignment program. That's what you get when you come and work at Mind Launch. So if you are not already in the program, I know a lot of you guys are already in here, but if you want to come into the program, there's a few ways to do that. You can go onto my website. You can join the wait list, right? There's a wait list on there. You can book a free consultation with me on there. You could also just message me on Instagram, the word details, and I'll send you the details about the program, right? Next cohort we have opening up, excuse me, talking too much, will be Monday, the 25th of November, right? So a bit later this month. But if you're watching this video on YouTube at a later date, you can just message me, send me the word details, go onto the website. I'll put all the description and everything, the details in the description below, and you can find everything that you need through there. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that was helpful. We've gone a little bit over time, but I trust that you got everything that you needed from that. So thank you.